I'm dying. Hello, I am here again somehow to talk about Ferris Bueller's Day Off, the 1986 John Hughes classic. I am a 90s kid, I think, here to reevaluate and overanalyze perhaps like a true millennial would. There are a lot of theories and characters to get into with this classic film, and I've spent like 4 hours in this basement drinking coffee and eating no-hos. Not sure what that is. And I'm here to be a motivational speaker, although I'm not 35 years old with rice to burst. Whatever. Did I mention I had a lot of coffee? Okay, let's get into this. Obviously, spoilers are ahead. All right. The titular Day Off. The film opens with Ferris Bueller, a Shermer High senior from an upper-middle-class Chicago suburb, lying to his parents about being sick so he can get out of school. How could he possibly be expected to go to school on a day like this? We've all been there. His parents are a loving couple who dote on their sick son with concern. His sister, Jeanie, seems to see right through his manipulation and is pissed off. Rightfully so. The different way the teen siblings are treated and spoken to by their parents is clear from the beginning, but more on Jeanie later. Jeanie is sent off to school and the parents go to their respective jobs. In the shower, Ferris sings a song, Dankeschön, which in English, I think the singer mispronounces it Dankeschön, which would be like thank you kindly. And he later sings a song on the parade, which brings my first question up front and center. Did he have this all planned from the get-go? I mean, he does mention it's one of his favorite songs, but it's about a breakup, so I'm not 100% sure why it's relevant to the plot line. And it is weird foreshadowing. Sloane even brings it up at the end of the movie, asking him if he had it all planned from the beginning, and he kind of shoots a look and a wink at the camera. So did he? And when he's on the float, is he lip syncing? Like in real life, like obviously the actor Matthew Broderick is lip syncing, but I mean in the context of the film, is he lip syncing? Like why did that float just have those songs ready? This was 1986. Like they can't just like go online to YouTube or Spotify or whatever and like find the song. Like they would have had to have already had those songs, or Ferris would have had to have a tape of those songs on him, and that float had to have a great sound system. I just have a lot of questions. Also, what was that float for? Casimir Pulaski Day? Moving on. So Ferris calls his best friend Cameron Frye to come and get him. By great happenstance, Cameron also happens to be homesick. Or is it happenstance? More on that later. Sinister voice. The nonsense is interrupted by another theory. It's going to happen a lot. So there's this fan theory that Ferris is all in Cameron's head. And I'm just going to go ahead and dismiss it out the gate. You can absolutely look at the movie in that lens. I personally choose not to because to me, it's just kind of boring. Like, I don't want to be mean, but like I just don't particularly like that theory because then it renders like all the character analysis moot except for Cameron, and I think a lot of the other characters are pretty interesting, so I just don't really like to nullify all of them for the sake of one. So moving on to another fan theory. I have a lot of them. So there's this other one here that Ferris planned everything from the start, which I mentioned in the context of the song. So you have to kind of wonder, did Ferris know Cameron was going to be homesick from school that day? Or was that just a huge coincidence? Like, how many sick days does Cameron have? We know Ferris has 9. What's Cameron's truancy record like? I'm very curious because they mentioned like he's sick a lot because he's depressed, but again, more on that later. So I'm just really interested, like, what's going on there, and why doesn't Rooney care about Cameron's absentee record? That's a whole thing. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and dismiss this and just say it was a lot of improv on Ferris's part, and that he did know Cameron was going to be absent that day, but everything else was just, foreshadowing in terms of movie language. But I'll get more on Cameron and Ferris's planning of the day later on. Okay, So back to what I was talking about before. Ferris calls Cameron to pick him up. So Cameron is alone in his giant cold home, feeling under the weather. And to quote Ferris, he's the only guy I know who feels better when he's sick. Ferris has to really pressure Cameron to come over to his house, threatening him that if you're not over here in 15 minutes, I'll find a new best friend. Although according to Cameron, he's been saying that since the 5th grade, so that's not really a good threat. And to the audience, Ferris explains, I'm so disappointed in Cameron. $20 says he's sitting in his car right now debating whether or not to go out. And he's totally right. Cameron's just sitting in his car all lethargic, sniffling. He'll keep calling. I'll go. It's ridiculous. I'll go. God damn it! He starts hitting his seat. Eventually, obviously, Cameron does, though reluctantly, and after being very indecisive, ultimately go to Ferris's house and succumb to Ferris' peer pressure, much like Stu and Billy from Scream. And we all know how that turned out, don't we? At Ferris's house, Cameron calls the dean of students, which I'm pretty sure is a principal. Whatever, he calls Ed Rooney, pretending to be Sloane's father, Sloane being Ferris's girlfriend, and they pull this huge, intricate plan to get Sloane out of school. I gotta say, good planning on their part. I would never have been able to come up with all those recordings and stuff, which they did very quickly, by the way, but neither here nor there. So Rooney is coming off of a call with Ferris's mom to inform her that he has been absent 9 times this semester, and he has no reservations about keeping him back another year. So Rooney's very much on to Ferris's shenanigan and tomfoolery, and he is out to get Ferris. But anyway, I digress. So back to the phone call. Ferris uses his computer during the call between Rooney and his mother to hack the school's system and reduce the amount of days he's been absent on record from 9 to 2, which I gotta say, all right, I'll give Ferris his due. That was talented. I mean, he's the only kid I know who has a worse nope, never mind. I have a worse truancy record than him. Oh well. Anyway, so Cameron and Ferris set up, like I said, a fairly elaborate system to get Sloane the day off of school. And like Grace, the secretary, I can't believe they brought the grandmother into this. The shame. So to make their plot believable, Ferris wants to borrow Cameron's father's car. Or as Ferris puts it, the 1961 Ferrari 250 GT California. Less than 100 were made. My father spent 3 years restoring this car. It is his love. It is his passion. To which Ferris finishes, it is his fault. He didn't lock the garage. Now I have to stop everything. Wait. Cameron's family is obviously real wealthy. Ferris describes Cameron's home as a place is like a museum. It's very beautiful, very cold, and you're not allowed to touch anything. This is one of the most rare and expensive cars in existence. How is the garage not locked? How are there not preventative measures to ensure this car is not stolen or damaged? That is the most unrealistic part of the whole movie. Like, I almost am on Ferris's side with that. Almost. Anyway, Ferris wins, and they take the car to go get Sloane. Ferris masquerades as her father there to pick her up, as her maternal grandmother has passed, or that's the rouge anyway. Ed Rooney stands outside the school waiting with her. Then it gets weird. Okay, so Sloane goes up to Ferris and kisses him passionately, but to Rooney, he's seeing a 17-year-old junior high school student walk up and make out with her father, and he says, after witnessing this, so that's how it is in their family. Are you kidding me? If you see something, say something. He's the principal. He should be calling someone about that. This man is going so far out of his way to catch a kid for being truant, for being absent, for skipping school. And then when he sees something potentially far more sinister right in front of his damn face, he does nothing? I have no pity for this man. Not that you should have pity for Rooney, because ugh, but also, ugh. So the rest of the movie is Ferris taking his best friend and his girlfriend on a day of what he considers to be fun. They go to the Chicago Institute of Art. They eat pancreas at Shizqui. I don't think I said that right. A fancy restaurant. They attend a baseball game at Wrigley Field. They go to the tallest building, which would be the Sears or Willis Tower. And they look down on the city. They hit up a parade. Again, I presume for Kashmir Pulaski. Polanski? whatever, I don't know. And then screw the DeLorean. Like, I want whatever vehicle they have that's been taking them all throughout the city on this day, because there's no way they made it to all these places in one day. They had to be time traveling. Inconceivable. Even in movie logic, but whatever. Okay, so during the day, they're nearly foiled a few times by Ferris's father and once by his mother. Ed Rooney is trying to break into his house, and Ferris' sister Jeanie also tries to prove he's lying. And I'm just going to cut to the end and work back as I go through the character analysis. Cameron killed the car and presumably takes charge of his life. Nothing happens to Sloane. Jeanie ends up saving Ferris so she can get back at Rooney, and Rooney has had a very terrible, no good, very bad, awful day and ends up getting really put in his place, and Ferris gets away with everything. At this point, we do need to go into character breakdowns. Ferris is who we want to be as kids. Cameron is who we become as we grow up into our teens and early 20s, and that's who we relate to far more. As a fully grown adult, Jeanie is who I find myself really relating to, especially in 2021. So let's get into those characters breakdown. Ferris is supposed to represent the positive side of taking life easy, which is what John Hughes, the creator, said of him. He's very much, to me, juxtaposed with Cameron, and to a lesser degree his sister Jeanie, who both take everything too seriously. There's this other fan theory that suggests that Ferris is a narcissist, and he definitely meets a lot of those check marks, but also he doesn't meet the biggest one, which is he does care about other people, and I'll get more into that when I talk about Cameron. Really, when you come down to it, either way, you're kind of right. You know, he both does and doesn't meet a lot of those, as I said, check marks, and you can, look at the film either way, but it kind of isn't super important to the movie. It's just an interesting way to watch it. Personally, I think over being a narcissist, Ferris is just an arrogant, privileged 18-year-old kid who's never heard the word no, which there are plenty of examples. A man with priorities so far out of whack doesn't deserve such a fine automobile, Ferris says of Cameron's father. And Ferris drives the car as his priority in life is to experience it, not to sit back and watch it passively. The question isn't, what are we going to do? The question is, what aren't we going to do? Cameron wants to take the car back, obviously. He doesn't want to do really any of this. He's very resistant, and Ferris is very pushy. He says during the call, or he says after they pick up Sloane, if you had access to a car like this, would you take it back right away? Neither would I. Ferris makes the audience complicit in his actions by relating to us. And I think that's, it goes back to the message of the movie, which is life moves pretty fast. Got to experience it. Not just watch it, not just go through the motions. Okay, so Ferris is also very greedy. I've always wondered, how does he pay for everything? Another theory. Okay, so the restaurant they go to is very expensive. The three of them have great seats at Wrigley Fields. They park a Ferrari in the garage downtown, and he tips the valet. They go to the Chicago Art Institute, which is not free, thus proving DC is better than Chicago. This day off easily cost hundreds of dollars, yet Ferris complains multiple times about not having a car. There's a cut scene that explains that Ferris stole the money from his father's bonds. If you don't know what bonds are, because you're young, they're kind of like stocks, and it's like an older, people still have bonds, but not as often. It's like how older people saved money back in the day. And this scene was removed because it makes Ferris look a little bit more villainous and sinister. But without it, we're kind of left to wonder. I always hoped that he wasn't making Cameron pay for everything. Ferris is kind of a dick, but again, he's 18, so I guess he can grow out of it, but more likely he'll fail up. Yay for him. The main reason I don't go down the Ferris is a narcissist line of thinking is because of another fan theory, that Ferris planned the whole day for Cameron because he does legitimately care for Cameron. And before I explain that, we need to do a deep dive into one Cameron Frye. Ah, Cameron. I love this character. Alan Rook's performance is phenomenal. I've seen two popular theories regarding his character. The most prominent is that he has depression, which I think is inarguable. The other is that he is autistic, to which I say, how for both of those and anything else that I'm leaving out. However you interpret the character, you're right. And that's really, however you interpret the character, you're correct. The opening of the film shows the juxtaposition between Ferris's warm and loving home with Cameron's cold and lonely one. Cameron sings, "When Cameron was in Egypt's land, let my Cameron go," which is "Go Down Moses," which is a song about Israelites who were enslaved in Egypt, and the song is about trying to get freed, and it's a metaphor for Cameron's arc in that he wants freedom from his father's oppression. He keeps getting harassed by Ferris over the phone to come and get him, and he says to no one, "I'm dying," only for Ferris to call him back and say, "You're not dying, you just can't think of anything good to do." Obviously, Cameron gives in to Ferris's desires, and Ferris clearly has the power in this dynamic. He also calls Principal Rooney at Ferris's request to get Sloan out of school. However, the call does not go to Ferris's liking, and he ends up hitting and kicking Cameron, although mildly. Cameron goes to leave, but Ferris apologizes and pleads with him to stay while simultaneously gaining a favor. Okay, that does hit some check marks on that whole narcissist thing, but yeah, I still don't think he is. Anyway, the favor, borrowing his father's car, the Ferrari. Cameron doesn't want to take the car out, of course not, and he notes that his father loves that car more than life, and adds, "Remember how insane he went when I broke my retainer? Come on, that was a piece of plastic. This is a Ferrari." Dude's got a point. Again, Cameron gives in to Ferris's demand, thus the 6-foot-tall Cameron is stuffed uncomfortably into the back seat for the rest of the movie, both literally and metaphorically. Throughout the events of the day, Cameron is a passive participant. The most he engages is in the museum with, George Seurat's painting Sunday Afternoon on the Island of Le Grand Jaty. Didn't say any of that right. I'm gonna go with it. So he stares at the image of the little girl beside her mother, who isn't really being looked after, and it keeps getting closer to the painting, which is pointillized, and so the closer you look at it, the more obscure it is. And I interpret this as Cameron relating to the image of neglect on the part of the little girl, and also at the obscureness of it. The closer you look, the more of a mess it is, which I think is something that he fears about himself. While Ferris is singing on the float, Cameron and Sloan talk. On the side note, I do think Sloan and Cameron kind of had a lot more chemistry. Neither here nor there. So Cameron says, "As long as I've known him, everything works out for him. There's nothing he can't handle. I can't handle anything. School, parents, the future. Ferris can do anything. I don't know what I'm going to do. College? Yeah, but to do what? What are you interested in? Nothing. Me either." See, this is why youngsters relate to him. Who knows what you're gonna do? Nobody. Then we get to the part of the movie where Cameron sees how many miles are on the Ferrari now, and to quote Ferris, here's where Cameron goes berserk. So Cameron becomes catatonic for a while after having an intense panic attack, and then Ferris and Sloan take him to a beach and then the pool, trying to get him to come out of it. Okay, whose pool is that? No, seriously, whose pool is that? Whose house are they at? Is that Sloan's house? I mean, I have so many questions. If it's Sloan's house, why did she put a bathing suit on? Although if it is Sloan's house, that does make sense why her hair is totally dry in the next scene while the boy's hair is still wet. I gotta say, it takes hours for my hair to dry. That's just unbelievable. Okay, whatever. Okay, moving on. Whose house is it? Okay, anyway, at the pool, Ferris wonders, maybe he's really sick. Maybe he isn't just torturing himself. Cameron makes a faux suicide attempt, only to be saved by Ferris. Ferris Bueller, you're my hero. And then after playing around for a bit, they go back to Cameron's house to try to run the Ferrari backwards to get the miles off. That is the most kid thing. That's how you know they're young, because they had this stupid idea. Goodness. So Cameron explains his meltdown. "I realized it was ridiculous, being afraid, worrying about everything, wishing I was dead, all that shit. I'm tired of it. This has been the best day of my life. And then Cameron realizes the miles aren't coming off the car, and he delivers this emotional and compelling soliloquy. He finally stops kicking the car when he realizes he's dented it. And he says, my father will come home and see what I did. I can't hide this. He'll have to deal with me. I don't care. I really don't. I'm just tired of being afraid. Hell with it. I can't wait to see the look on the bastard's face. Then Cameron leans on the car, forgetting that it's still on a lift, running in reverse, and his weight causes the car's back wheels to hit the ground, and since it's still running, it shoots backwards out of the glass garage wall and down the hill to the ground below. And, well, to quote Ferris, you killed the car. Ferris offers to stay until Cameron's dad comes home and take the heat for Cameron, stating that it was his fault, to which Cameron says, no, I'll take it, I want it. If I didn't want it, I wouldn't have let you take the car out this morning. No, I want it. I'm gonna take it. When Morris comes home, he and I are gonna have a little chat. It's gonna be good. Thanks anyway. That's where we leave Cameron. He's ready and willing to stand up to his father Morris, but that leaves me with so many questions. Like, how do you think Morris is going to murder Cameron? Because that's definitely what happens. As I noted above, Cameron can be interpreted as having depression, also in the throes of a deep existential crisis. I find Cameron's relationship with his parents, specifically his father, really, really interesting. Ferris's parents are seen throughout the movie, and their presence is very important, just as the absence of Cameron's father is. Cameron's father is like this ethereal oppression haunting Cameron's thoughts. Cameron mentions Morris multiple times when he and Ferris are in the garage talking about taking the Ferrari out, all of which sound bad. His parents seem to be in a loveless relationship while he's in the Sears or Willis Tower. Looking down, Cameron says, I think I see my dad. The bastard's down there somewhere. At every turn, Cameron mentions his father in a negative way. He, to me, is clearly neglected and oppressed by him, and more than that, and he says outright, he's afraid of him to the point where he literally felt like he wanted to die. Like, that's pretty intense. That's where, yes, another theory comes in. Ferris takes this day off of school to cheer Cameron up because this day specifically, Cameron was going to take his own life. And throughout the movie, Ferris says that he has done this for Cameron. So that aspect of the theory comes from public evidence. When Ferris is trying to get Cameron to come over, the exchange goes as follows. I'm serious, man. This is ridiculous. Making me wait all around for you. Why can't you let me rot in peace? Cameron, this is my 6th day. If I get caught, I don't graduate. I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for you. After Cameron says he hasn't seen anything good today, Ferris dedicates the song to him on the float during the parade. Ladies and gentlemen, you're such a wonderful crowd. We'd like to play a little tune for you. It's one of my personal favorites, and I'd like to dedicate it to a young man who doesn't think he's seen anything good today. Cameron Frye, this one's for you. When Cameron is catatonic, Ferris says to the audience, this may very well be for real. I think Cameron may have blown a microchip or two. He's always been a little keyed up. All I wanted to do was give him a good day. Ferris and Sloan had to work really hard to get the day off of school, but Cameron was never going to school that day. He had already called in sick. He was sick and alone in his cold and loveless house. Ferris did do this all for Cameron, to cheer him up. Ferris has a nice family and a girlfriend and is carefree. He kind of has it all, except for a car. Cameron is alone and depressed, and in part he did want to die. Or rather, he wants this sort of metaphorical death so he can be reborn into something new, and at the end of the film, he sort of is. He is emboldened to stick up to his father and take control of his life. Back to the theory about Ferris Bueller being a narcissist. This is the main reason I dismiss it. He clearly does care very deeply for Cameron. However, as I said a few times before, he's this 18-year-old epitome of white male privilege. And on that note, let's talk about Jeanie. Jeanie is Ferris's sister. Okay, so I've long wondered, is she older or younger or his twin? Ferris is a senior in high school. So unless they're like 9 months apart and happen to be in the same school year, they're either twins or Jeanie is younger. I just always found that really weird. Moving on. So Jeanie says this when she's at school. Jeanie decides to leave school early and prove Ferris is lying. She wants equality, and for that, she's depicted as an angry woman, which is infuriating. From the get-go, we see how differently the parents treat Jeanie and Ferris. Ferris seems like an easy kid, but he's lying. Like, he's lied 9 times, obviously. He's the bad kid. And Jeanie, who's doing what she's supposed to do, gets nothing but contempt. Why? Because she's a teen girl who's upset that her brother is treated better than her? I'd be acting like a brat too. Back at home, Jeanie finds Ferris is not at home, sick, and asleep in bed. So after trying and failing to get in contact with her mother, she hears something downstairs. She goes to investigate, only to discover a fully grown, 6 foot tall, strange man in her house. She screams, kicks him, great kick, and runs upstairs to hide under her bed and call the police. This is gonna frustrate me. So Rooney, the intruder, picks himself up and leaves as he's seeing his car being towed away. The doorbell rings and Jeanie runs downstairs, thanking the police for saving her, only to find it's not the police at the door, but people to deliver flowers, balloons, and something, and sex. It's like, okay, I'm a little curious. Who sent the sex nurse? And also, are those people there together for like a sex party? Because, I mean, look at the smile on the guy delivering the flowers face, and what is that bubble? The balloon face man? What is that? That is nightmare fuel. I just want to know, is it who, what, why? I have so many questions. Anyway, we got back to Jeanie at the police station now. The police took her downtown for making a phony phone call, here's where I go berserk. Why was she taken to the police station when her sick-ass principal broke into her house? She's a teenager. For fuck's sake, cops do not believe girls. The misogyny is palpable. Then we're treated to a junkie sitting beside her, played by a very young Charlie Sheen, who gives her some advice. The dude tells Jeanie, you wear too much eye makeup. My sister wears too much. People think she's a whore. Okay. When the fuck did she ask you? You Chicago gutter rat junkie mother. Okay, guys. Do not comment on a woman's appearance if she didn't ask you. And especially if she's a fucking teenager. You pervert. Also, she's not wearing makeup for you, she's wearing it for her. And as Jeanie would say, go stick your thumb up your butt. Sadly, they continue to converse. Why should he get to ditch when everyone has to go? To which he replies, then your problem is you. Oh, the victim shaming. Okay. You ought to spend a little more time dealing with yourself and a little less time worrying about what your brother does. Okay, realistically, no one likes tattletale. Alright. Snitches get stitches. However, she's literally being treated unfairly and unjustly. Her attitude is totally warranted. Why was the mom so quick to assume she was lying and so fast to assume Ferris was telling the truth about being sick even after Principal Rooney's phone call, to which she did go to look, but only to assure herself, not because she actually thought he was guilty. Maybe Jeanie acts like a brat because that's how she's treated, because that's what people saw her as and not vice versa. So I'd like to say, don't worry about other people, focus on you without being selfish, which Ferris is, by the way. However, when the scales of justice are tipped, it is fair to lash out against the system, even when that system is your parents. Jeanie was right to say, that's it, I want out of this family. So Jeanie and Cameron are quite similar. They both care too much, though in different ways. Cameron is passive, and most of his concerns are internal. Well, they're external, but he internalizes them. Thus, his arc is to become more active and stand up to his father. Jeanie is active, and her issues are fully external, and she externalizes them. So her arc is to become more carefree, like Ferris. She ultimately is the person who ends up allowing him to get away with everything. She is the one who punishes Principal Rooney. She puts him in his place by revealing he dropped his wallet in her kitchen, which the police could have fucking found anyway. Where was I? Found wallet, and she throws it in a pond, which wakes up the Rottweiler who attacks him. And that's another thing. Rooney knocked their dog out. I am not here for animal cruelty. Hashtag justice. The Roddy deserved to get him. But on another side note, how did Ferris's parents, who were in the house at that time, not hear Principal Rooney screaming in the backyard as their dog attacked him? Like, you would hear that? Neither here nor there. Just saying, he's like the worst principal since Dick Vernon in The Breakfast Club. As I was saying, Jeanie is the hero. Her story is so interesting. She is honest, where Ferris is a liar. But she isn't liked. She's seen as a bitch with a bad attitude, while Ferris is beloved by the whole effing town. Misogyny. Yay. A man, Rooney, breaks into her house and she calls the police. They don't find anyone in the house, even though he clearly left evidence. And they take her to the police station and she isn't believed. Yeah, Me Too happened a long time later, and still, shit ain't better. It's whatever. Grumble. Ferris is constantly getting away with shit because he's a dude. Jeanie gets in trouble for other man's actions. She's blamed constantly and criticized. Ferris Bueller's Day Off is ultimately a great title because he faces no consequences. He's totally off the hook. Jeanie got in trouble. Cameron got murdered. We know. And Sloane may or may not have gotten away with faking her grandmother's death, but Ferris for sure 100% got away with it. He is the epitome of privilege. There we go. That's my analysis. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Did I come too hard? You can say yes. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day. Feel free to leave a comment. Yay! Bye. Oh, you're still here. Sorry I didn't mention Sloane, but, you know, she was kind of pointless, so. Don't go shooting.